always, we need to make sure all our connections are connecting. We go through Facebook, YouTube, and X, and we are sending data to all three of those. Facebook has just connected, so we're streaming through there. X is streaming, and there you go. Boom. YouTube's on as well. Right, let's talk. There's a lot going on this week, and Asheebo is going to be doing most of the talking because he's been on top of all this. But Asheebo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. I'm Gene Galin of the Chatham Journal. We're going to talk about one of the biggest events in Chatham County is the middle school basketball tournament games. You had Horton versus Bennett girls and Horton versus Pollard boys. Asheebo will give you the rundown on that. We're also going to talk about the basketball conference tournament champions. 5 teams made it into or tournament champions this year. Then we're going to I think we're going to mix up the order a little bit. We're going to talk about wrestling. There it is, high school wrestling. We had some winners here in Chatham County, and then we'll get into North Carolina High School Athletic Association basketball tournament, let you know how things went on Tuesday in the first round, and then Asheebo is going to have a little preview on all the games happening today. And hey, spring sports has already begun, baseball, softball, got some rain today, so the Northwood baseball game got canceled for today, but Asheebo will get into that as well. So let me just take that off. And remember, if you're watching us on Facebook, you're more than welcome to comment. And the other neat thing is, folks, we're now, last couple of weeks, we've been averaging over 1,800 of you watching. So middle school, we're going to start off with you because you guys had your tournament championship game you did last week. Asheebo will give you a rundown. Let me get out of the way and put him up front and center. There you go, Asheebo.
Yeah, middle school. It's a big night for Horton last Friday night at Northwood. They took the boys and girls titles, with the boys beating Pollard 60-38. That was a rematch of last year's boys title game. And it's the first championship for Horton coach Damaris Skurlock, who took over for his dad, Kenneth, back in the 2023-24 season. So they got the big win there, led by Lorenzo Gatlin, who had 22 points down in the paint. And Tyson Toomer, the guard, knocked down a couple threes and finished the night with 17 points in that double-digit win. And then in the girls' game, right, just straight domination from Horton. They won that one 61-5 over Bennett. Second straight undefeated championship season for Coach Wanda Bland and her Wildcats. And the leading scorer in this one, Elena Toomer, 16 points. Zadia Frazier followed with 11. And then Kylie Moore and Cameron Lux scored 10 points each in that game. And, if you guys saw the interview did with Gene and I and Coach Bland, we joked about exactly how many titles Coach Bland has won at Horton. It's kind of a mystery. I think she been doing some research and reaching back out to her and the AD at Horton as well, Derek Lee, and the number we got is 6. So if anyone can help us out, get a definitive number as far as your memory of championship games in the past and how the title games have gone in the past few years. I know it's hard to find those records for middle school basketball online, but we know Coach Bland has won quite a few championships at Horton over the years, and of course, like we said, back to back. So we know 2 straight in the last 2 seasons. But that's just a rundown of middle school basketball championships and the end of their tournament. And Gene, did you want to go ahead and go into the conference tournament for the high schools last week as well?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. But also, Sheba's been trying to find out about Coach Bland's records. I think she mentioned that she has had a situation where she won 3 championships in a row. This will be her 2nd championship. So, she'll be back next year as a coach because she's going to try for that 3. She joked about it with Asheebo. Coach Bland was a great person to talk with, and was glad to see how well she's been doing with those girls. All right, let's talk about conference championship tournament games because we've got some first this year. So why don't you go into it and let me post the graphic. Go on.
Here we go. Right after our middle school games that Friday, we had some big wins for our high school teams in their conference tournament championship. So we had 5 across the county take home conference tournament titles. And like we said, 2 firsts with the Woods Charter boys. Got a big win over Southern Wake Academy, 41-38. A game where, Southern Wake beat Woods twice in the season by, I think, more than 30 points each time. They kind of ran through that conference and were dominant all year. The Woods came in, played a great game, got the upset at the end there, knocked down some big shots and free throws at the end. Saw the last few minutes on the stream, and they pulled out their first conference tournament title. Seaforth boys, the same thing. Really close game with South Granville, and actually they got out to a pretty good lead. Of course, the big story in that game was Campbell Metter, 37 points for him. He was just hot all night. And then Declan Lindquist, their other leading scorer, he goes down after fouling out in regulation. So they go into overtime after South Granville hits a game-tying three at the regulation buzzer. Campbell Metter goes in. He's dueling with Braden Greenup from South Granville. I think he had 35 in that game as well. And Campbell Metter, he hits 2 threes. Duncan Parker hits clutch free throw at the end there, and C4 takes that one 76-72. Big celebration for them in the locker room as well. And we thank Coach Barry for allowing us to see them celebrate their first conference tournament title too. But then business as usual, right, for the rest of the county. And our champions, Northwood boys, got a win over URA Charter 69-49 in their conference title game. Seaforth girls once again won the conference tournament title with a win over Orange 58-33. And then Northwoods girls completed an undefeated regular season and tournament season in their conference, right? 51-37 over URA Charter as well. So, like we said, those were our 5 high school conference tournament champions from Friday.
Yep, and Seaforth is playing. We'll get into it. Those conference champions are all playing or have been playing in the tournament, state tournament. So we'll get into the playoffs. All right, what's next on our agenda? Let's see here. We're going to go. You want to go into wrestling first?
Yes, definitely want to shout out our state champion wrestlers and some of the big finishes at the individual wrestling tournaments over the weekend. So Seaforth picked up 2 more individual state champions. Seniors Gabe Rogers, he was wrestling in the 144-pound bracket, and then Jordan Miller in 120. They both took state titles. Gabe Rogers dominant win there that he won by take fall in the second period, and then Jordan Miller just racked up points, held on at the end in that third period, and walked off to the sunset as a state champion. Of course, Gabe Rogers, he's going to go to Binghamton University to continue his wrestling career. And Jordan Miller still undecided about his future as far as wrestling in college. But congratulations to those guys. Two state championships each for them in their careers, back-to-back years. They both won last season. Also, we had Chatham Central senior Carson Williams in the first place match for 1A, 2A, 157-pound bracket, and came up short in that one, but finished second. A pretty historic finish for him, actually. Let me find exactly how big it was. Yeah, so he's Carson Williams actually became Chatham Central's first podium finish since Cole Armstrong in 2019, and the school's first state champion finalist since Nick Daggett took home the 113-pound championship in 2017. So great season for Carson Williams and really representing Chatham Central. He had the AD, Miss Principal Dark Zebulon there as well. He has a lot of the community out there cheering him on, and he represented the Bears pretty well there. But also in wrestling, we had some girls finish pretty high up too. Jordan Matthews, Alexandra Zamano Garcia became the school's first state placer in the individual wrestling tournament for the 1 through 4A 114-pound division as she placed 4th. And then C4's Liliana Messier, also wrestling 5A for the 165-pound bracket. She placed 3rd for the Hawks there. So, yeah, pretty good results around the county in the state championships. Also, too, C4 finished as state runner-ups for the team points in the individual wrestling results. So they nearly got a three-peat there in the individual wrestling tournament with those 2 state champions. You also had Harrison Compton, who was a 190-pounder for C4, finishing 2nd as well. He was also in the first place matchup. So he provided some big points for the Hawks in the tournament. But yeah, that's a wrap on the wrestling season. Like we said, a couple state champions, some state runner-ups, and some historic finishes from around the county.
Yeah, I think this turned out to be a really nice wrestling season for a lot of the Chatham County teams. You've been following it closely since the beginning of the season, and you knew some of this stuff was coming. We're happy for Gabe. We've talked with his dad, and also happy for the other team members, including the lady wrestlers as well. That ladies wrestling has really stepped up in this state, so that was good to see. All right, what do we have next on the agenda?
Yeah, so I think we're ready to go into boys. Well, not boys, but all basketball, right? Playoffs, first round and second round. Of course, we had the first round happening on Tuesday. We had second round game actually last night. We'll talk about that as well. But of course, we have second round matchups set for tonight. And yeah, so just a rundown of the first round scores, starting on the boys' side of things. In 5A, number 10 Seaforth got the big win over number 23 Dixon, 63-43. And in that one, Declan Lindquist led the way with 18 points. Campbell Metter poured in 15 points, and they held Dixon to just 12 points between the second and third quarters. So pretty good defensive game from the Hawks as well. And then over in 4A, Jordan Matthews hosting their first home playoff game since 2016. They went up against number 19 Clinton and fell short 73-60 in that one. They had no answer for Anias Butler from Clinton. He had 22 points in that one, but Jordan Matthews finished 12-13 on the year. And then on the girls' side of things, we had 4 games going on their side. So starting in 1A, number 14 Chatham Central got the win over number 19 River Mill, 51-28. And then number 11 Chatham Charter, big win over number 22 Ascend Leadership, who's conference foe for them, 45-23. And in that one, Peyton York had 14 points and 8 steals. And then also on 1A, on the east side, number 13 Rocky Mount Prep got the best of Woods Charter, the 15 seed, 53-41. So the Wolves season ended on Tuesday night. And then in 4A, number 9 Southwestern Randolph beat number 24 Jordan Matthews 64-38 in the first round. Of course, Jordan Matthews got in the playoffs, last team in for them, but unfortunately fell short against a conference opponent in that one. So their season also came to a close. So second round matchups for tonight, right? And actually, we had one game go on last night. We had number 6 Andrews hosting number 11 Chatham Charter, and Andrews did beat the Knights 61-34. So Chatham Charter ended their season at 15-11 last night. But starting on the boys' side of things, and Gene, I'm going to ask you too what you think about these games, and we're going to give some predictions of what we think is going to happen. But starting in 5A with number 10 Seaforth going to number 7 High Point Central. High Point Central 14-8 on the year, right? They're led by Josiah Hill, guard, standing about 6'2". I think he's averaging 19 points per game. And they also have Jaden Velez averaging 12.7 points per game. They're coming off of a loss to Randleman. Of course, they had a bye in that first round, and they've only lost back-to-back games once this season. Meanwhile, Seaforth has won 9 of their last 10. Now, like we said, Campbell Metter, 37 points in that conference championship game. He's shown all year, and him and Declan, right? 2 really, really talented scorers. Campbell can really shoot it from beyond the arc. Declan as well, too. And both are pretty good at getting to the line and being aggressive. So I think if those 2 guards play well, I think Seaforth is in a good spot. Defensively, not really worried about the Hawks here because they, that's like a pillar of their identity, right? Making sure, they bring the pressure on you. They want to make you turn the ball over, especially with Cole Davis at the top of their defensive scheme there. And then they have a lot of hustle and toughness with Patrick Miller down low, getting rebounds and blocks. So not worried about them defensively. It's just for them, I think stopping Josiah Hill, right? He's a high volume scorer for High Point Central. They've got some good wins this year. I think they beat TW Andrews twice, and Andrews was a team that won 19 games this year, I think. So it's going to be a close one. But I think I like Seaforth in this one. I think they've been playing really good basketball as of late. I think they've really hit their stride, and they really believe now that, these games are going into, I think they also believe that they can be the better team in these games from what I get talking to the guys and talking to Coach Barry. So I think I'm going to take Seaforth in this one. What do you think, Gene?
Man, you're making this tough. I'm going to hem and haw on this one a little bit. Do I think Seaforth can win? Yes. Do I think the other team can win? Yes. And I'll tell you what, I saw the game on Tuesday when they played against Dixon. The first, again, you mentioned, and we know this and we've seen this because I also talked to Coach McNair over at Woods afterwards because I went over to shoot the girls' game and the Woods boys team was there with Coach McNair. Coach Berry's team plays hard defense. They get that ball moving around. But when they were playing against Dixon, out of the first 18 points in the first half, and Dixon scored 20 points in the first half. Five of their baskets were 3-pointers. So I think yes, Seaforth was playing strong defense. They weren't allowing any points in the paint from Dixon, but they weren't getting their hand up in the face of the 3-point shooter enough times. I think you and I know Coach Berry will have these guys prepared. I think if they play mistake-free, that yes, they can win. My question right now, having seen them play on Tuesday, is are they going to be able to do that for a full 4 quarters? So if they can't, they're going to lose. If they can, I think you're right. They're going to come away with the win. Backtracking quickly to the Woods girls, when they played last Tuesday, they were down to the other team. Gosh, what was their name again? I'm drawing a blank.
Rocky Mount Prep.
Rocky Mount Prep. Actually ran into the girls, Rocky Mount Prep girls at the North Chatham McDonald's afterwards. They got it as close as 4 points during the second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, and then Rocky Mount Prep kind of just ran away with it at the end. The girls fought hard to the end, and it was nice to see them make it there. It was also nice to see the Woods boys team there to support them. So congratulations, lady. Wish you guys had won, but hey, sometimes these things happen. So in reference back to Seaforth, I guess I would have to look at the probability. You know what? I'll give, and Coach Berry can pick on me about this later. I'll give Seaforth a probability of 51% of winning this. It all depends on if they play the way Coach Berry wants them to play. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they've got the potential to win this one, which would be really nice. All right, I'll quit yik-yakking. You got anything else before you talk about the next game?
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, Seaforth, like I said, I think I'm picking the upset here, but I think Seaforth's just a really hot team, and they were in the playoffs before at this position as well. So we'll see if they can continue that hot streak at High Point Central tonight. But yeah, the next game I want to talk about as well over in 3A, number 11 NCSSM Durham is going to number 6 Northwood tonight. Northwood starting their playoff run after having the first round bye. And North Carolina Science and Math, led by 17-5 this season, led by Alex Kaza down low, who's averaging 17.3 points per game and 8.6 rebounds. And then Mustafa Aldebar also as well, averaging 13.5 points per game. They've won 10 of their last 11. And from what I've seen, they're not a very consistently good three-point shooting team. They take a lot of them, but they can be streaky at times. So it's something to watch for. But we could possibly see Chad Graves back tonight. Not totally sure. I've asked around and still waiting on confirmation. But I heard he could be ready for the playoffs. So we'll see if he'll come back tonight. But with him or without him, not really worried about Northwood here. I think with North Carolina Science and Math, great record. They just haven't played, the high competition like a Northwood this season. And I think Northwood's going to take care of business in that one tonight. Gene, anything on that game?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the danger here is that there may be periods of the games where there'll be lapses in the team performance. And if that happens, Coach Brown's going to call a timeout and set them straight. So I agree with you. What's going to be interesting is if they win tonight's game, who they're going to play next, because depending on how the other game goes, they may either stay at home, but in all likelihood, next game they're going to travel. So that's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the way Northwood's been playing, they will win this one.
Yeah, you made a good point. That Northeastern South Lenore game that they'll be waiting on should they win tonight could be an interesting one. Of course, Northeastern was another one of those teams, right? We talked about making that 3A East division just so deep this year. But yeah, then moving on to 1A, Number 12, Phoenix Academy coming to number 9, Woods Charter. This is a rematch of a non-conference matchup we had earlier this year. You guys remember Woods Charter beat them 69-68 in the buzzer beater by a buzzer beater from Campbell Metter in January. So that was a close battle. Phoenix Academy is 11-13 on the year. They're led by Chase Gallo, who's averaging 13.5 points per game, and Irvin Montgomery, who's averaging 12.4 points per game. In that first meeting, Montgomery had 12 points, but Levi Haga dominated them, right? 17 points, 18 rebounds in that one. But like you said, even with Levi going off in that one, it was still a close game. I think Woods is a healthier team, I think, in this meeting, right? I'm not sure if Alden Phelps played in that first meeting, but I think this is one I was kind of worried about for Woods when I was going through these previews and looking at them, just because of how close that game was. But it's at home. It could be Woods' first playoff win if they do pull this one out. So they're going to be pumped up to try to get this win. But I'm actually just looking at Phoenix Academy's schedule. They have some. They did play some good basketball throughout the year. I might pick Phoenix Academy to win this one, just in a close one. Like I said, this is the one. Actually, no. I'm picking Woods in this one. I'm sorry, this is not a game I wasn't that worried about. But I am going to put Woods in this one. I think it's going to be close again. And yeah, what do you think about this one, Gene?
I just want to say before we dig into that, Blake Andrew posted on our Facebook live stream, what's the prediction of the boys, Northwood boys and girls games tonight? Blake, we already told you what our prediction is for the boys games. We'll tell you about the girls games later. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just also saw a post from Woods Charter as we were starting. It looks like that boys game is going to be 7 o'clock instead of 7:30. So after we finish up, let's you and I talk about folks, we're going to figure out how Asheebo and I can cover the most games tonight. So, but that game moved from 7:30. It looks like to 7 o'clock for Woods Charter. Again, I think it's going to be close, and I'm gonna edge like I did with the Seaford game. I'll give him a 51% probability. I think Coach Leonard's got his team going, and as you mentioned, it's an opportunity for them to win their first playoff game, and I think they'll be ready for it. Coach Leonard's really psyched. The other thing when I was talking to Coach Leonard on Tuesday, his mom is so proud of him because he played for Northwood under Coach Berry, and when their team won that game, she's like posting stuff on social media about being so proud of him. And look, anyone who's gone to Wood should be proud of what Coach McNair has done with that team. All right, I'll quit you yakking about that, but yeah, I give them a slight edge today. Again, they're gonna have to play tough, like Seafort's got to play tough, and I think they can pull it off.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm picking Woods in that one. I actually misspoke. The one I was interested in and maybe worried about with our local teams is this next one. Also 1A, number 20, North Stokes at number 4, Chatham Charter. North Stokes is in that tough conference with Chatham Central, right? That 1A, 2A, Bishop McGinn and South Stokes, those teams that are in 2A that they played against all year. And that brings kind of some uncertainty, right? Because with those teams, the 1A teams in the 1A, 2A divisions, you never really know what they're going to be like on the 1A level because of the competition they were able to play and the things they saw. So North Stokes, they coming in this one. They've lost 10 of the last 12. Of course, a lot of those were conference games. But they're a really older team. A lot of seniors on that team as well. Chatham Charter on the other side is very young, right? Only one senior. A lot of them sophomores, freshmen, some juniors on that team. So Chatham Charter is going to have their hands full. It's not going to be – I don't think this one's going to be easy win, even though they're at home for the Knights. I do worry a little bit about the experience that North Stokes has and the competition that they were able to play this year. So their 6-19 record, I'm not sure if that's exactly definitive of how good they are totally. So I would keep an eye on this one. Actually, if I have an upset, I am going to pick with our local teams hosting this round. I will be picking this one. I think North Stokes could come in there and get a win just with Chatham Charter being so young. And but the thing is for them, I think the key for the Knights, if Ryder Murphy can have a big game, as well as they can get some of their big guys down low to have some pretty good games as well, controlling the boards, getting putbacks, that'll be huge. That's been a huge part of Chatham Charter's identity. of course, Kamani Wagner Chatter, right? The senior leader, defensive leader, and kind of the heart and soul of this team. If he can pour in some scoring to help out Ryder Murphy as well, that would be a big lift. But like I said, I do have my eyes on this one and interested to see how this one's going to shake out.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add to this one is I agree with you. I think where Chatham Charter at a disadvantage is that they have a young team. You and I have seen enough state playoff games to see that the teams who've been there before have a tendency to do better when they come back for a second or third chance because they've been there before and they know what to experience. And you and I have sat in with post-game interviews with teams, and the team that's got the older players usually has just more experience being able to do that thing. But hey, we hope Chatham Charter does do well. All right, who's next?
Yeah, then our last 1A boys game for tonight, number 10, Bethany Community at number 7, Chatham Central. Like I said, the Bears getting the host after the first round bye. Bethany Community coming into this one 14-12 on the year, led by Quentin Leach, who's scoring 15.5 points per night, and Easton Volts, who's poured in 12 points per game. Bethany Community, I think a team that could give Chatham Central a run for their money here, but Chatham Central, we know this is a team that can score. They've been getting better defensively this season, and I think as far as Quentin Leach, being down low and producing a lot there, I think Chatham Central has enough with Simon Saba and Wesley Brower to handle the shot protection, run protection down low as well. I think they get that advantage, and then Brooks Albright, tough to stop, right? He's gonna let those threes fly. Turner Albright's also gonna be right by him with his 3-point shot and driving. And they also have an athletic wing/guard and Jeremiah Young as well. I think Chatham Central is gonna show tonight. Just kind of like that North Stokes team, right? Their record and what they did in conference doesn't really reflect just how good they are on the 1A level because they were playing good competition with South Stokes, Bishop McGinnis, those 2A teams in their conference. I think Chatham Central, like you said, they got some wins, punching above their classification this year as well. I think they come in here and get a big win at home against Bethany Community.
Let me ask you this question. We got to talk with the Chatham Central coach when they did the jamboree over in Siler City. Would you consider? Do you think he's considered this season successful? Because when you and I talked to him at the beginning of the season or in the preseason, he had some concerns about how well he was going to do with the team because it was fairly young. What do you think? What's your assessment of the team, and what do you think his assessment of? Hey, we've had a good season this year.
Yeah, I mean, if I were in his shoes, I would consider it successful for that same reason, right? This is a really young team. The seniors and Wesley Brower, Jeremiah Young, Simon Saba, those are only the seniors. And then outside of that, you're relying on sophomores and freshmen to really pull their weight. And I think with Brooks Albright, what he's become this year, double-digit score. I want to say 18 or 19 points per game. Not sure the exact number, but it's pretty up there. And what he's able to do in that South Stokes game at South Stokes in the conference championship, right? They played a lot better against that team than what they had done in the past, right? Usually that's a 25, 30-point game. That one ended up 66-54. So I think this team got better over the course of the year, and they have a little bit of that playoff experience with the veterans, especially Jeremiah Young, who's been there before. He's been on deep playoff runs. So that's a guy you can look to in a high-pressure situation. So I would say this season is a success. And if I were him, I'd be really excited for next year, right? Because you get that a lot of these guys back as juniors. They see the playoffs, after this year. They got used to that new conference that they're in. And so you can go from there. But, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think we both agree on that. And congratulations to Chatham Central and their coach on doing as well as they had. And best of luck tonight. All right, who's next?
Yeah, and then over in girls basketball tonight, so we're going to go starting with 1A. Of course, like we said, Andrews, did eliminate Chatham Charter last night, 61-34. But also on 1A, number 14, Chatham Central will be going to number 3, College Prep and Leadership. College Prep and Leadership, of course, in Chatham Central conference foes this year. College Prep Leadership beat them twice this year by at least 20 points in both meetings. They're 18-7 on the year, led by Mackenzie Dambaya, who's averaging 14.2 points per game, and Lexi Holmes is averaging 10.3 points per game. And both of them are shooting either at 40% or at 39% from three. So they can light it up from beyond the arc. They can score. And I think Chatham Central is going to fall short in this one. I think College Prep Leadership is too talented of a team and too good of a team to overcome, especially going to their place in the playoff environment.
No argument from me on this one. Definitely agree with you on this one. Next one.
And then the big game that, like I said, me and Gene will be going to start the night, 6 o'clock. Number 12, South Granville at number 5, Seaforth. This one, conference matchup as well, right? And both teams split this. They split the season series with South Granville winning the first meeting, I think 41-25, and then Seaforth winning the second one in a blowout win. Lala Pinegar from South Granville, right? It's a star for that team. 30.5 points per game and 12.5 rebounds per game for her. She's shooting 39% from three as well. And then that first win over Seaforth, she had 22 points and 14 rebounds. But on the other side of that one, right, I think a lot of Seaforth's woes was because that was also Katie Leonard's worst game of the year. She only had 11 points on 14% shooting. And in that second meeting with Seaforth, got their revenge in a big way. Katie Leonard had 31 points while Pendegar had 19. So, yeah, Seaforth really throughout this whole playoff run, right, they're going to be looking to get those big games from Katie Leonard, see if she can consistently knock down those open looks from three, create her own shot, but also get her teammates involved as well. Because when her teammates are scoring, they are a much better team. And so we'll see if we can see some of that tonight. But South Granville, I mean, they've shown they can beat Seaforth. So that's what's going to make this interesting to see what kind of game are we going to get. Are we going to get a close game where both teams, that split the series? Or are they going to play tight? Or is this going to be one of those games where Seaforth is just hot, like we've seen in the past couple weeks, right? It's just been dominating their conference opponents and dominating these games on the back of Katie Leonard. So it'll be interesting to see what we get tonight. But I do think Seaforth is going to come out on top regardless of what South Granville throws at them tonight.
All right, I got another question for you. We know Katie Leonard's good. Actually, I think I saw a post out there recently. I'm not sure which side, might have been High School OT or someone else that posted. She's one of the top 20 players here in the state. I'm sure South Granville is going to concentrate on her. But do you feel, at least what's your feeling as to, hey, what happens if they do concentrate on Katie Leonard? What does Seaforth have to do to win that game?
Yeah, like we said, we got to see the other players as well step up, and I think they're very capable, right? Annika Johansson, pretty solid guard that can drive, find open looks, but also knock down the three as well. They're a really good three-point shooting team all around, right? Because it's not just Katie, Annika, of course, Mia Moore, who just had a 30-point game recently, right? She can light it up from three. Emma Grace Hill, we've seen her knock some down. And then you also have Lariah Rojas, right, down low, usually on the boards, cleaning up things with putbacks, getting those easy layups. I think if they get those other players in a rhythm, they're going to be really hard to stop, because then you have to take some pressure off of Katie, go attend to these other players knocking down threes, because they're going to be at the three-point line waiting on the pass, right? And if you let off Katie with her physical advantage, right, her skill advantage, her shooting advantage, she can kill you there. So, just getting those other girls involved, they get in a rhythm and start the game on that same level of scoring and helping Katie out, and they play as a team. I think they'll be really hard to stop.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think we've seen them play enough where if someone's putting pressure on Katie, she's got alternatives out there. The other thing I like about Seaforth, I was watching, actually, I think it was the Woods game. The Seaforth girls team does not hold on to the ball. They don't give the team another opportunity to get a held ball. They just pass it to the next available player, and they've got so many options, as you said, on the three-point shooters and the center court. So I definitely would agree with you on this one. I'm going with Seaforth and Katie and the rest of the gang at the Seaforth girls basketball team tonight.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Our last game, number 13, Providence Grove at number 4, Northwood in the 3A East bracket. Providence Grove 14-9 on the year. They've won 6 out of their last 7, and they're led by Laurel Bernhardt, who's averaging 14.9 points per game, and Addie Johnson, who's averaging 11.5 points per game. Now, Northwood, a team that has not lost since December 22nd, right? They've just been straight dominating conference opponents, and they had that one non-conference game against Nash Central, which they won by 10 points in this stretch since Christmas break. So Northwood's really hot. I think they're playing really good basketball. This is a team that I'm looking at. Of course, they got the 4 seed. They got the first round bye. They can make a pretty deep run just looking at the experience they have. They're an older team. You have the Glover twins down low who have really developed in their own way, right? Shayla Glover, she's kind of turned into a double machine here at the end of the season. Michaela Glover is also just really, really good on the boards and being a defensive a stopper with her physical advantages. And then you got Leah Roberts, right, knocking down shots from outside. Noah Whitaker, the younger guard, coming in with some defensive energy and the ability to drive. Then you have Nia Henry, the senior, the point guard, who's kind of the other ball handler, I should say, that's kind of helping keep everything together and can get you some pretty good buckets too, driving the lane or through the mid range. So they're an all around balanced team, just with skill, ability, experience, and at home playoff environment. I think it's going to be really hard to beat Northwood here. I'm going to take the Chargers over Providence Grove, and we'll see them. I imagine we'll see them on Saturday playing in the third round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I think you bring up a good point too. It should be a good home field advantage. I think then that's also going to be the case with Chatham Central as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Chatham Central has a packed arena for that game as well. So yeah, Northwood Lake. There you go. There's the Northwood girls' prediction. Is yes, we see them winning, and Todd and Joe. And I'd like to thank all of Tiffany, Norris, Lee, and all the other folks who are watching. Thank you so much for doing it. We do appreciate you watching because Asheebo does a great job updating you as to what's going on. All right, we're done with the basketball power rankings. That ended up. So we're not going to get into that. However, are we ready to get into spring sports? Because spring sports has started, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. We had some baseball and softball this week, as well as some girls soccer and lacrosse. So just starting with baseball. And before we get into the scores, now I had a coach reach out and ask if I was doing preseason rankings, and I said I'll do them from the stream. So with baseball, just general preseason rankings for the year. We have some baseball and softball previews in the paper this week. We'll have rankings in them, just more of general rundowns of what to look for with these teams this season going into the year. But coming in for baseball at 5, I have Jordan Matthews, 4 Chatham Central, 3 Chatham Charter, 2 Northwood, and 1 Seaforth. I think Seaforth, a team that's returning a lot of talent from the last 2 seasons. They've been building each year. I think they're going to be another really good team this year as well. Northwood, same thing. They were a little younger on the younger side last year. Still got some young players as well this year, but those guys like Finn, Raleigh D'Angelo, Brody Zupan, they're really stepping into some big roles this year, and I expect them to be a pretty good baseball team as well. Chatham Charter, I think they're going to do really well in their conference and once again be in the running for a 1A playoff run. And then Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews, just looking for improvements out of those teams, especially Jordan Matthews, where this season the only way to go is up after last year. So we'll see how these seasons go for these teams. But just to run down the scores from the first games yesterday, Seaforth beat Southern Alamance 2-1, and that one Bryce Honeycutt 9 strikeouts and a hit allowed in 5 innings on the mound. And then at the plate, he went 1 for 2 and had an RBI to put his team up 2-0 in the middle of that game. And so Seaforth will be back at home tomorrow at 7 against Wake Forest. And then Northwood, a pretty exciting win over Carborough, 9-8 in extra innings last night. And that one, Brody Zupan had the sac fly to score Mason Lutterlow for a walk-off run and to win that game. And then Raleigh D'Angelo, big game for him, right? 3 for 3 with a home run, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs. So, like we said, Northwood off to a pretty good start so far after an exciting win. And they'll be at home against Vance Charter. Well, actually, no, that game got canceled. Their game tonight against Vance Charter is no longer going to be played because of the weather. So just want to let you guys know that. But then the rest of the baseball season, right, that's starting, we have Jordan Matthews scheduled to play Wheatmore tomorrow at 6. That's going to be at Wheatmore. And then Chatham Central is going to host South Stokes on March 3rd. And Chatham Charter will host Southern Alamance on March 3rd as well to open their season. So what you think about the start of baseball, Gene? What do you think about the teams around the county?
I'm excited about it. I feel like it's starting a week too early, but that's okay. Yeah, looking forward to some games this year. And I had to smile when you mentioned that a baseball coach asked you about your preseason rankings. Folks just like, look, Asheebo does a really nice job about it. He explains why he comes up with the rankings he does. And Asheebo and I have heard several times that that's something that coaches use and the players use as inspiration for them to do better. And it's all fun. We all enjoy how you folks are all playing here in Chatham County. Hopefully, I did check the weather report. We're not supposed to have any rain on Friday, and hopefully by the time those teams are ready to play some ball, the fields will be in good enough shape that they can go ahead and play that. And you mentioned, the boys' baseball game at Northwood got canceled today, and you said there's still a possibility of the Northwood softball game, or is that still up in the air? Or
That was up in the air. I would advise everyone, if you guys are on Facebook, to follow the Northwood Boosters Friends and Alumni Association account. They usually keep up with the updates there of what to do. I heard from Vernon, the AD at Northwood. He said they have the tarp on the field for softball, but yeah, it's kind of up in the air if they're still going to play tonight. But going into softball, right? Same thing. Preseason rankings that I have Chatham Charter at 5, Northwood at 4. Jordan Matthews at 3, Chatham Central at 2, and Seaforth at 1. I think Seaforth is going to be another really good team, right? With a lot of talent on that team that they're bringing back from last year. Chatham Central, of course, they're going to be led by their star pitcher, Maddie Karsmachek, who's been a stud her last 2 seasons in high school. And they also got some good hitting that they're returning as well. And then Jordan Matthews is going to be interesting, right? I think they're going to be one of those teams that could rise up in the power rankings because they were so young last year. And, of course, they're going to get 2 more shots at Chatham Central. They did keep up that rivalry for softball this season, despite being a different classifications and conferences. So we're going to see those teams go head-to-head as well. And, of course, they're going to go head-to-head with Northwood, which I think could be an improved team this year as well. But going into the first scores from our season openers, Southeast Alamance did get the best of Chatham Central, though, in that season opener, 11-3. And in that one, Southeast Alamance scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning, thanks to 2 home runs from Amari Contreras and Maya Woody. And then Central had no runs in the last 4 innings of that game. So that was really the difference there. And so Central will see if they can bounce back at home against Overhills on March 3rd. And then for the rest of softball, right, we didn't have any. Of course, we're not going to have we possibly could not have Northwood versus Sutherland tonight. Like we said, that's still in the air. But Jordan Matthews at Carborough will be on March 3rd. Seaforth will start at home against Middle Creek on March 4th. And then Chatham Charter will begin its season at Central Carolina Academy on March 3rd. So that's the opening of softball run now. Of course, we only have 1 game so far this season, but we'll see more in the coming days. And then just a quick run on the girls soccer. We had some scores there from the season openers. Northwood beat Southern Lee 4-2. And then Eastern Alamance got the best of Jordan Matthews 7-0 as well this week. So only 2 games we had. Other season openers, Chatham Charter will be at Central Carolina Academy on March 5th. Woods Charter will be hosting River Mill on March 9th, and Seaforth will open its season at Southie Granville on March 3rd. And then we had 1 score in boys lacrosse. Ravenscroft beat Seaforth by 1 point, 15-14 in a close battle. Northwood will open its season against Pinecrest tomorrow at 6 at home. And then in girls lacrosse, Seaforth will host St. Mary's on March 2nd, and Northwood will begin its season at home against Cleveland on March 9th. So, yes, that's a quick rundown of all of our other spring sports that have gotten started. so far.
Yeah, a whole lot going on. All right. We had a lot of activity last week. Paper Chatham News and Record comes out today on Thursdays. What do you have in this week's paper, Asheebo?
Yeah, so of course we have a story from our middle school basketball championships. We have our baseball and softball previews to give you guys a rundown of the teams before the season start, and kind of give like a look at a whole of top returners from the county. Get a look at what the teams did last year as well, and we have a feature on Jesse Escalin, right, the swimmer at Chatham Central, who was the school's first ever swimmer in its over 60-year history, and he became a state champion. He's only swimmer. He didn't have any teammates with him. It was just him when he decided to go up to Coach Tommy Peel and ask if they could start a team for him 4 years ago, and it ended up becoming another state championship banner for the school. So we have a story on how that happened. And his journey to becoming the state champion as well. So that's what we have in the Chatham News and Record this week. Oh, yeah, also, too, the championship roundup, of course, with our wrestling state championships and results from the basketball conference tournament titles as well. So you can read more about those games in the paper. But, Gene, are you ready to go into our Athlete of the Week?
I'm ready to go on Athlete of the Week. And I want to remind everybody, you got to pick up a paper. You had a whole bunch of stuff happen last week. You got middle school, high school, and everything else. You got championships. A swimmer, come on, after how many years that you got a swimmer winning it because he went up and asked the coach, hey, can you start a team? That's the kind of stories, that's the kind of nice things about high school sports. And that's what Asheebo covers up here in the Chatham News and Record. All right, I will quit yik yakking and give you the full screen for who your Athlete of the Week is.
Yeah, it was a tough week because we had some big performances, right? We had Campbell Mentor going for 37 points. We had some other great performances in those conference championship games. But I think I was like, man, we gotta shout out girls basketball once again. It's been a while. And this week's Athlete of the Week is Shayla Glover from Northwood girls basketball team. She had a 22-point, 11 rebound double-double in their conference tournament title game against URE Charter. She recorded 3 steals, a block, and she knocked down her only 3-point make of the year. So big night for Shayla Glover. And like you said, she's kind of turned into a double-double machine or getting close to it in a lot of these games. She's got 3 double-doubles this season, and she's averaging a career high 9.7 points per game entering the state playoffs. So congratulations to Shayla Glover for being this week's Athlete of the Week.
Yeah, Shayla, congratulations. Also want to remind folks, Shayla and her sister they played on the girls' flag football team. Actually, 5 of the girls on the Northwood baseball team played on the girls' flag football team. There's C4 players, JM players that also played on there as well. I'm hoping North Carolina High School Athletic Association sanctions that sport in the next year or two, because when Asheebo and I followed them out there, it was fun to watch them play flag football. All right, let's talk about game plans. Well, you and I are looking to cover some stuff today and tomorrow and possibly on Saturday. What are you looking to do today, tomorrow, or Saturday?
Yeah, so tonight, like I said, I'll be at C4 for the girls' game, and then run over to Woods, possibly it could be their first boys playoff win, right, in school history. Also, do interesting thing, if Chatham Charter and Woods Charter boys win tonight, they will meet up for a third round matchup on Saturday. So that'll be something to look at as well. And we'll get a 4th meeting of those teams, right? Chatham Charter leads the season series 2-1. But that's where I'll be tonight. And of course, Saturday is all in the air. Depends on tonight, or depending on if I can even make it Saturday. Sometimes Saturdays is a tough day for me to get out. And then Monday night, if we do have a 4th round team playing again Monday night, though, I'll definitely be trying to get to the closest game, because I know probably by Monday night we'll have a lot of teams traveling either far east or far west. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I know next week probably going to start getting into more of a baseball and softball, start hitting those games, get some coverage of those games in person, and getting our spring season kicked off while we finish up winter here. But yeah. So
yeah, I just want to remind folks, Asheebo mentioned he's got a Facebook page, but also all the stuff we're tossing around in the air right now, you will hear more about it on Asheebo R38 on X. Another popular thing besides his power rankings is the fact that he does post-game interviews with players and coaches. So definitely stay tuned to that. If you're not following him on X, you do need to follow him on X. So take advantage of that, folks, because that's where you're going to find out information as to what went on today. And again, we'll see what next week's schedule is. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Look, if you don't mind, share this with somebody else. We're last couple of weeks, we've been averaging over 1,800 views per live stream, and we appreciate that. Asheebo does a great job putting out the paper. He doesn't need to do this on Thursdays, but it's just another way to let you hear all the stuff that he knows about the county, and he's doing a great job. So Asheebo, as always, thank you. We will see you folks back next Thursday because, man, we got baseball, we got softball, we got lacrosse, and we'll talk about basketball and see how teams here in Chatham County are doing in the playoffs. Asheebo, you got anything else to close up with?
Nope, as always, thank you all for watching us, supporting our coverage, and also reading the Chatham News and Record. Don't forget to pick up a new copy every Thursday when it does come out. And of course, if you guys see me or Gene out at the games, don't hesitate to say hello. We always love a good chat, talking about the athletes and the games that we're covering. So we'll see you all the next couple of days in the playoff games and these baseball and softball games as that season gets underway. And yeah, like I said, thank you all for watching.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you don't see Asheebo sitting at the scorer's table. He's sitting out there in the crowd, and he's in between sessions. When he's at the timeouts, he'll be talking to some of the folks and into halftime. So take advantage of him being out there. All right, folks, we're going to end up the stream. We will see